Hey everybody, I'm Jacob Castro and welcome to another plant guide here on Jacob's Aquarium. So today we're going to be talking about jungle val because a lot of you guys have actually requested a plant guide on jungle val. But before we get into this plant guide, actually I wanted to show you guys a plant that I have growing in the pond. It's absolutely insane as far as how big it is. I've only been growing this plant for a short time in the pond, you know, because we just started selling it, and it's my first time experiencing, you know, how it grows and everything, and I'm just blown away. It's crazy. So if I remember correctly, this plant is called a Apongeton ovaceus, and it's a very, very beautiful plant. The leaves will grow kind of with this crinkled, wavy look, you know, and as you can see, the plant gets rather large. It grows from a bulb and everything, from a bulb with, you know, and the roots come out of the bulb and stuff. And then also, you know, something that really, that I found out by accident, which was kind of painful, there are actually little tiny spiky things in the root ball, whatever you call it, or the bulb that it grows out of, you know. And they're actually pointed upwards. So if you can imagine, you know, the plant's like this. I'm planting the plant like this. I'm holding like this, and I push down, and these things actually caught me in my fingers, and it hurt really bad. So that's one thing to watch out for with this plant. That's the only thing I don't like about it. But other than that, it is absolutely gorgeous. It's an absolutely huge plant, and it grows so fast. Believe it or not, okay? A week ago, this plant was not even half the size of what it is today. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how fast these things grow. Obviously, you know, the things that I utilize in my pond, CO2, nutrients, good light, and everything play a role into that. But I could still see this plant growing, you know, almost as fast as it's growing for me in, you know, maybe a beginner planted tank, because they just seem like they're super hardy and super easy to grow plants from what I've experienced during the short time that I've been growing them. So I just wanted to show you guys this plant really quick. I have two of these available, or sorry, I had two of these available. They actually have already been sold, so these are being shipped out on Monday. But I will be getting more, and we'll be growing more as well. So you guys will be able to buy plants that are, you know, this size, this big, healthy, nice plant, you know. So stay tuned on jacobsaquarium.com because I will have more if you're interested in this plant. So we'll go ahead and put this guy back in here. And man, it's like taking over. It's so huge. So today we're going to be talking about jungle val. And you know, jungle val is a really easy to grow plant. It's actually a great beginner plant because you know, you can grow it in tanks that don't have CO2, that don't have really great lighting. Pretty much all it, you know, really relies on to stay healthy is minimal nutrients and minimal light. I've heard of some people actually growing this plant in gravel as well, just relying on the nutrients and waste from their fish to fertilize this plant. So it's a very easy to grow plant, a great plant for beginners, a great plant for as a background plant because it does get so large. I believe, if I remember correctly from what I was reading on the internet, these plants can grow upwards of 6 feet tall in the wild. Absolutely insane. So they will, you know, get rather large in an aquarium as well. And that's probably something to keep in mind if you are buying this for a small aquarium, because they will take over and then your tank will slowly become just packed with jungle val because it does get so big. Okay, so let's take one out so I can show you guys. So this is jungle val right here. We'll wash the sand off of it, and as you can see, there's a little thing from one of the runners. We'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So let's go ahead and start the video off talking about jungle val's color, and then we'll get into how you propagate it, its compatibility, and some other things about this awesome plant. So as far as color, jungle val can appear light to dark green in color. Some things to watch out for, pretty much typical with most aquarium plants. So as if it starts to turn yellow or the leaves start to turn black, that's an indication that it's rotting, or it may maybe experience a nutrient deficiency. So you might want to look into, you know, how much nutrients you're dosing, or if you're not dosing any nutrients at all, actually dosing them. You know, those are just some things to watch out for. The bottom of the plant should appear white in color. It shouldn't appear black or brown or anything. Once again, if that's the case, then it is rotting, it is dying. In regards to the roots, this is the biggest misconception with this plant when people buy it from me. When people buy this plant, typically the roots, typically they will be all black, and they'll send me an email or send me a text, or they'll call me and they'll be like, Jacob, my jungle val arrived dead. It's totally unhealthy and everything. But the thing is that these plants are grown at a nursery. They're grown in who knows what type of substrate. It could be dirt, it could be Planet Tank substrate, whatever. But what I've noticed is the roots of jungle val typically turn the same color as what they're grown in. So I'm pretty much thinking that at the nurseries that we buy jungle val from, they're grown in pretty large tanks and dirt or something, because the roots always arrive dark. But the plant is extremely healthy. It's in great shape. If it was truly unhealthy, because the roots were black and everything, it wouldn't survive in our system. But as you can see, they're thriving. We got these about a week ago, so they're still alive. So there's nothing wrong with them. So that's the biggest misconception that people have with this plant when they buy it from us. So just something to note: if you do plan on buying jungle val, you can expect dark roots, if not black roots. So that's pretty much all there is to say about the color. I mean, other than that, it's a really beautiful color. It's a natural looking color, something that will definitely help create a jungle theme in a Planet Tank. I just think it's absolutely gorgeous. And I've noticed too, if you have it under really high light, it turns this really, really dark green color. It looks absolutely beautiful. So the color of this plant is light to dark green in color. But some things to watch out for is yellowing, black spots on the leaves, because that could be an indication of rotting. But if if the roots are black, but they're still intact, like this, it's perfectly fine. If the roots are black and they're falling off, then it is rotting. So those are just some things to consider as far as color for jungle val before buying this plant. So as far as propagation, you really don't need to do anything special to propagate this plant. You can simply rely on this plant to propagate itself, because the plant does in fact grow by producing runners. And runners are pretty much extensions of a plant that grow along a little root looking structure. I'll give you guys a close-up of that right now. It's a root looking structure that will grow off of the main mother plant, produce another plant, and that plant will then root and then continue to produce another long root like structure, and then another plant, and so on and so forth. So it's rather easy to propagate. You don't really have to do anything besides keep it healthy, because it will propagate itself. It does grow and propagate rather fast as well in the right conditions. If you have CO2 and nutrients and good light and everything, you can expect to have a nice little patch of jungle val pretty quickly, because they do spread out and grow rather fast in the right conditions. But that's pretty much how the plant is propagated. I mean, if you'd like, you can cut these off and plant the little growths somewhere else. But pretty much, if you don't want to do any of that, you just let the plant do its thing. That's how it propagates itself. So very easy. So as far as compatibility, I've seen a lot of different things on the internet about this plant. Some people say it's a great plant to grow in cichlid tanks, or in general, fish that like to dig in the substrate, tanks like that. But in my opinion, I don't think this is really a great plant for a cichlid tank or aggressive fish tank, or a tank with fish that dig in the substrate, because while it does root rather deep, cichlid fish are known to dig really, really deep holes, and I'm pretty sure they can still uproot this plant. And it's not really that fragile, but I would say with the right aggressive fish, this plant can be torn apart. It's not really the strongest plant out there. So I wouldn't recommend this for a cichlid tank or an aggressive fish tank. I would actually recommend this for in a normal Planet Tank with small fish, neon tetras, rainbow fish, fish along those lines that aren't really too aggressive. However, fish that are nippy, fish that like to nip at plants, typically fish that will destroy like dwarf baby tears or plants like that. This plant is perfectly fine with fish like that, because the leaves are strong enough to withstand any type of pecking from any fish. So as far as compatibility, in my opinion, I don't recommend it for a cichlid tank, or in a tank with fish that dig in the substrate. There are people that say otherwise, but that's just my personal opinion. I do, however, recommend it for just a normal planted tank, with normal planted tank fish. But like I said, nippy fish would be perfectly fine. All right, and last but not least, we move on to growth habits. And as far as growth habits, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, this plant does grow rather large, so that's something to keep in mind. I think it's best, for a tank that's like a tall aquarium. Like if you guys remember my 50-gallon tall that you've seen in previous videos, this would be a great plant for that tank because it'll grow all the way to the top and completely, fill up the back wall of my aquarium. So it's a great plant for a tall aquarium because it does get rather large. One thing that you need to remember not to do with this plant when you first receive it and you first plant it in your tank is to not bury it too deep into the substrate. I've seen some people that will stick jungle val, up to here in substrate. So pretty much the root system and up to here is covered in substrate. And that's not a good thing to do. What will happen is the plant will start to deteriorate and rot, because this portion is covered with substrate. It's not receiving light like it should, and that rotting will just continue all the way down to the base and thus killing the plant. So you really only want to bury this plant. I should actually turn it around, huh? You should only really bury this plant up to about right here with substrate. You don't want to go really that high because then you risk possibly killing the plant. As far as its roots, as I mentioned, it does root rather deeply into the substrate, but the roots are really kind of long and skinny. They're not really strong roots. So as I said, I'm pretty sure it can still be uprooted by a strong fish. As far as trimming this plant, this is also one thing you want to be careful about. I've seen some people say that when you trim this plant, you want to use really sharp scissors so you make a nice clean cut. And I agree with that because I've noticed when I've made sloppy cuts or just plain and simply torn the leaves off the top, the leaf that I've actually done that to will rot all the way down to the base and die off. The actual plant won't die, but the leaf will fall off. So when you're trimming this plant, you just want to trim the tops of it, and you don't want to just rip it off or use, not sharp scissors. You want to use sharp scissors and just cut the tops off like that, and the leaf should still stay alive. If you rip it off though, most likely that whole leaf will just rot away. Now something interesting about this plant is it's one of the few plants in the aquarium trade that can be grown in brackish water. And for those of you that don't know what brackish water is a mix between salt and fresh water. So it's fresh water that has a little bit of a salinity level to it. I'm not too familiar with that, so I apologize if I didn't say things correctly, but it can survive in brackish water. Brackish water will affect its growth rate, however, so it won't grow as fast in brackish water, but it will still continue to survive. And it's one of the few plants that will grow in brackish water. So if you have a brackish tank, with brackish fish, obviously this is a great choice. It's one of the few, non-saltwater plants that will survive in a brackish tank. And that's pretty much all there is to say about growth habits about jungle val. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. Let me know in the comment section what plant you'd like to see in a future plant guide. I also wanted to mention that pretty soon we're going to start offering UPS 3-day select service on our website, which is a more reliable service than the post office. I will make a separate video about that to let you guys know about that as well. But that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks again for watching, everybody. I really appreciate it. If you're interested in any of the aquatic plants, well, pretty much the only aquatic plant that we talked about in today's video, you can visit jacobsaquarium.com. Have fun with your tanks, everybody, and I will see you next time.